Nanami Mamazono is a broke, homeless loser whose deadbeat gambler of a dad screwed her over so hard she ended up sleeping on the streets like roadkill, until one day, some random crusty old man took pity on her dumbass and handed her the keys to his entire shrine, turning this nobody into a full-blown land god with divine riz. She even gets a smoking hot foxboy bound to obey her every command. However, before any of this, one day, Nanami gets kicked out of her house out of nowhere. Her useless bum of a father who is a serial gambler wastes away all their house budget and eventually gets into a heavy debt. One day some shady people arrive at Nanami's house and seize her house and its property. At the same time, Nanami learns that her dad has run away somewhere and left with no choice. She leaves her home. Later that night, she comes across another useless old man who is getting hassled by a small dog half his size. She makes the dog run away and the man named Mikage tells her that he cannot handle dogs. She confides in him about her living situation and in return, he reveals to her that he left his home a long time ago as well. Mikage even comments that Tomoe must be really pissed at him, and when Nanami keeps whining about her living situation, he declares that he is leaving his home to her. Before she can question him, he kisses her forehead and comments that she is more worthy of his home than him. He hands her an address and walks away from her. Since Nanami doesn't have a place to go to, she follows the address and ends up in front of a rundown shrine. She turns around thinking that Mikage must have tricked her, but suddenly the house starts calling out to her. She tries to run away but ends up falling back inside the house. A dark shadow appears behind her and accuses her of leaving him behind for 20 whole years. The figure lunges at her, but before the attack is successful, the man stops when he looks at Nanami's face. The man turns out to be a fox spirit named Tomoe, and just then, two other spirits appear before her. They sense Mikage's mark on Nanami's forehead and Mikage's spiritual energy inside her. After getting over her initial shock, Nanami hands Tomoe the address paper Mikage gave to her and explains to him that Mikage told her to live at the shrine. Tomoe informs her that Mikage was not just a good-for-nothing useless old man but actually the land god of the region, and that the shrine is actually the home of the land god. He explains that Mikage has made her the shrine's lady, due to which she is the new land god. The two spirits named Kotetsu and Anakiri further inform Nanami that Mikage transferred his spiritual powers to her when he kissed her forehead. Nanami cannot believe that she has suddenly become a god, and at the same time, Tomoe starts whining that a mid-high school girl like her has become the new land god. He taunts her for being useless, and she argues with him that the rundown shrine probably doesn't even get that much money. Tomoe becomes offended and declares that he is only the real Mikage's familiar and won't serve a frail nobody like her. He then walks away and disappears into thin air. The spirits give Nanami a place to sleep for the night, and the next morning, she wakes up in her Delulu land, thinking that everything that happened was a dream. The spirits appear before her and declare that she has to do all the duties of the land god. They make her clean the whole shrine, and wipe away all the dust to purge the evil spirits. Nanami whines about her duties as she works, and the spirits remind her that she has to protect the shrine since Tomoe has gone now. She wonders about Tomoe's identity, and the spirits explain to her that Tomoe was originally a wild dog who was brought in by Mikage as his familiar. Later, Nanami slaves away her youth as she pulls out weeds from the backyard. Tomoe appears behind her and tells her to leave the shrine since an idiot like her can never fulfill the duties of a god. She tells him that she doesn't have any place to go back to since her house has been taken away. After a moment's silence, he kicks her from behind and again vanishes into thin air. Nanami resumes her duties and later collapses with exhaustion. Suddenly an old lady visits the shrine and prays for her daughter. Nanami hears her prayers even though the old lady wasn't speaking, and after the lady leaves, she realizes that she has the power to her worshippers' prayers. The spirits conjure dozens of books in front of her and tell her to look over all the books. The books contain a detailed account of all the prayers which Mikage's worshippers made at the shrine. The spirits tell Nanami that Tomoe used to write down all the prayers and that he took care of all the shrine duties by himself. Nanami realizes that Tomoe tried his best to manage the shrine in Mikage's absence, and that she must have insulted him when she called the shrine a rundown place earlier. She decides to apologize to him and requests the spirits to take her to wherever Tomoe is. The spirits take her to the spirit world, where they lead her directly to Tomoe, who is drinking and hanging out with sus women. The spirits beg him to return to Nanami, but he declares that he doesn't care if the shrine is ruined. Nanami scolds him for not returning to his home and storms out in anger. She runs into some other spirits, who block her path and attempt to attack her. Kotetsu and Anakiri collide into the spirits and help Nanami escape from their attack. Before the spirits can chase after her, Tomoe appears before them and beats them up. Nanami runs into a forest and the spirits suggest her to form a contract with Tomoe to make him her familiar. They tell her that Tomoe will have to obey all her commands once he is her familiar, and the idea attracts her a lot, but they then reveal that she can only form a contract with him by kissing him. Nanami refuses to kiss him and runs away from the spirits. She runs into an old woman who asks her for help, and Nanami carries the old woman to help her out. The old woman attacks her and Nanami barely manages to survive with the help of Kotetsu and Onigiri. They flee from the old woman and the spirits give her white talismans which she can use to display her powers. Nanami wastes 2 of the talismans and she uses the third one to call out Tomoe to help her out. In the meanwhile, one of the spirits finds Tomoe and asks him to help out Nanami. At the same time, Tomoe receives the talisman from Nanami and he pays her a visit to watch her suffer. Nanami climbs a tree to get away from the old woman and she kicks the old woman down. Tomoe appears before her and asks her to beg his forgiveness in exchange for his help. She refuses to grovel before him, and when the old woman rushes after her again, she grabs onto Tomoe as she falls down from the tree. Tomoe falls down with her, and during the fall, she grabs Tomoe and kisses him on the mouth. The contract is sealed and Tomoe becomes her familiar once and for all. She instantly orders him to help her out and Tomoe catches her as she falls on the ground. Tomoe then ties up the old hag and beats her up, blaming her for all his misfortunes. Afterwards, he heads back to the shrine on Nanami's orders. The next morning, Nanami wakes up in the shrine and thinks for a second that maybe she dreamed about everything. She comes out of her Delulu land when she sees the spirits in front of her and then notices that her room has been neatly cleaned around her. The spirits tell her that Tomoe prepared her room for her and that it's his job to take care of her as her familiar. She notices a dead-looking Tomoe sitting silently beside her, which makes her think that he must be really mad at her for forcing a kiss on him. He turns towards her and brightly greets her, much to her shock. After a second, he lets all his anger loose on her as he blames her for forcing him to become her familiar. Finally, he declares that he will make her worthy of being a powerful god. Tomoe explains to her like she is a retard in training that she has divine powers which will increase the more she uses them. The only way to increase her divine powers is to listen to others' prayers and answer them. He explains that mic is used to fulfill prayers regarding matchmaking and then asks Nanami to turn water into alcohol. Nanami uses a white talisman in an attempt to convert the water, but nothing happens when she puts the talisman into the water. Tomoe turns around to leave and the spirits beg him to have some faith in Nanami despite her uselessness. Later the spirits serve Nanami her food and she realizes that Tomoe has taken over all the cleaning and cooking since he believes that all such tasks are his duties as a familiar. She learns on the TV that her favorite pop star named Kurama has shifted to her school, so she decides to act cringe by visiting her school just to look at him. She immediately tries to run away to her school, but Tomoe stops her and reminds her that other spirits can easily target her since they can see her status as a land god on her forehead. She asks him to come along with her, but he doesn't want to be a part of her cringe fest. He then allows her to go on the condition that she has to wear a stupid-looking hat at school, to hide her forehead. Later she heads to school, wearing the hat, and her classmate named Isabi makes fun of her looks. Suddenly, Kurama storms inside the class and heads straight towards Nanami. He calls her a hood girl and asks her to move away from his seat. The other girls take notice of Nanami's existence and start discussing her poor condition, so Nanami runs away, feeling upset. She ends up at the bathroom where she cries her heart out and Tomoe appears behind her. He asks her to head back to the shrine now that she has seen Kurama, and she feels hurt that he only cares about the shrine and not her. She scolds him for acting selfish and then storms out once again. Outside the bathroom, she runs into Kurama, who confesses to her that he was acting mean towards her because he felt irritated by everybody's attention and stares. Nanami tells the narcissistic prince that she won't stare at him again and heads back to her class on her own. During the lunch break, she realizes that she didn't bring any lunch. Her friend asks her whether she has any money to buy herself lunch, and Nanami discovers a bunch of notes in her pockets which shocks her. At the same time, Kurama loudly tells the girls around him that he has lost some money. The girls notice the same money in Nanami's hands and accuse her of stealing Kurama's money. Kurama jumps between them and declares that he gave Nanami the money to buy herself some bread. Nanami cannot believe that she is being tricked this way, and suddenly Tomoe appears at the door. Several of Tomoe's attendants enter the classroom and lay down an elaborate lunch for her. Tomoe tells her classmates that Nanami is the shrine's lady and asks them to take care of her. He also tells Kurama to look at his feet where his lost money is lying casually, even though Kurama had deliberately put money in Nanami's pockets to trap her. This way, Tomoe saves her in the nick of time and makes all the girls fangirl over his good looks. The next morning, Tomoe hands Nanami her lunchbox and she heads to school after refusing to wear the hood. On the way, her classmates approach her and nicely ask her whether Tomoe is coming to meet her once again. She tells them that they won't be seeing Tomoe anymore since she bought lunch, and they leave her alone. Kurama appears in his car and offers Nanami a ride, but she declares that she hates him and walks to school on her own. Tomoe decides to keep an eye on Nanami since her identity is exposed to the world without her hood. The day passes by as usual, and Nanami receives a letter from Kurama telling her to meet him on the roof. She meets with him and he asks her why she is acting cold towards him even though all the girls crap their plots on seeing him. He keeps sprouting high and mighty nonsense, so she gives him a reality check that no one will become his friend if he keeps acting like the wannabe prince of narcissism. She then leaves and Kurama thinks about how he wants to acquire the land god to increase his powers. His real identity is revealed as his wings emerge, but before he can attack Nanami, he feels a chill down his spine and suddenly Tomoe kicks him from behind. Kurama reveals that he is a crow spirit and that he intends to eat Nanami's flesh in order to become a land god himself. He attacks Tomoe, but Tomoe easily jumps back to avoid his move. Kurama offers Tomoe to become his familiar instead, and Tomoe appears behind him to teach him a lesson about humility. He pastes a paper on Kurama's forehead which makes him transform into an ostrich. Tomoe then declares that he will feed Nanami Kurama's ostrich meat since it is very healthy and nutritious. Tomoe lunges at him just as Kurama runs into the hallway to escape for his life. Nanami hears all the ruckus and runs out in the hallway only to collide with Kurama and another classmate. She notices Kurama's pendant on the ostrich and realizes that Tomoe has turned him into a bird. Later on her orders, Tomoe transforms Kurama back into a human. She then notices that Kurama's face is slightly injured, so she starts to give him first aid. She tells him that she doesn't like him but she still wants to help him out. Meanwhile, the original land god Mikage watches everything from outside and thinks that Nanami is slowly becoming a fine god. One day, a sparrow arrives at the Mikage shrine and tells Nanami that someone named Himiko is coming to meet her soon. Later, Tomoe tells Nanami that Himiko is the mistress of a swamp and that she was originally a catfish spirit. He explains to her that Himiko's swamp called Isara Swamp falls under Mikage's land, due to which it is natural for Himiko to pay her a visit. Nanami feels excited about the visit, but Tomoe declares that she cannot receive Himiko and orders her to stay inside during the visit. Afterwards, Himiko pays Mikage's shrine a visit with her spirits and Tomoe receives everyone on his own. Meanwhile, the other spirits try consoling Nanami that Tomoe was only looking after her and wants the best for her. Tomoe shows Himiko inside and Himiko's familiar named Ayatake argues with Tomoe that he is being disrespectful by not allowing them to meet with the land god. Tomoe lies to them that Nanami is resting due to a sickness, but they don't believe him and start slandering Nanami's human identity. Nanami sneaks out and overhears the comments about herself. Ayatake taunts Tomoe for following a useless human girl, and Tomoe reminds him that Himiko has come to pay respect to Nanami and not to insult her. The argument escalates and Ayatake puts his sword on Tomoe's neck as he blatantly orders him to summon Nanami. Tomoe welcomes the challenge since he doesn't like his cocky attitude as well, but before things can escalate, Nanami appears at the door and asks Ayatake to put away the sword. She apologizes for not showing up earlier and Tomoe appears beside her as her familiar. Ayatake doesn't back down and calls Nanami a frail little girl to her face. Tomoe gets ready to fight him and both spirits lunge at each other. Tomoe gains the upper hand immediately as he manages to stamp a leaf on Ayatake's forehead, which makes him transform into a fish. He picks up the fish and reveals his elaborate plan to grill it at the right temperature later to eat it. Nanami yells at him to leave Ayatake alone and to become friends with him. Suddenly Tomoe sits down like a good boy and even shakes Ayatake's fin. Himiko, who was silent all this time, points out that Nanami has used her divine powers which make her words binding on her familiars. Nanami feels elated to learn that she can compel Tomoe to listen to her instructions. Himiko apologizes to Nanami for Ayatake's behavior and reveals that she has come to the shrine with a matchmaking request. She explains that she met a boy named Kotaru 10 years ago at her swamp and fell in love with him, due to which she wants Nanami to help her find him. Tomoe instantly rejects her request and reminds her that love between a human and a spirit is a taboo, but Nanami doesn't share the same perspective. She agrees to help out Himiko, thinking that all girls have the same cringe thoughts about love whether they are a spirit or a human. The next morning, Nanami thinks that Tomoe must be really angry at her since she ignored his instructions and agreed to help out Himiko on her own. He bluntly tells her to leave the matter alone, but Nanami remains stubborn that she wants to help out Himiko. She decides to head to the town by herself to look for Kotaru, and suddenly Tomoe recalls how Mikage left him all alone. He stops Nanami but then decides to accompany her into the town. Later they both head into the town where Tomoe's fox ears gain the attention of the townspeople. On Nanami's orders, he makes his ears vanish and they both end up at an ice cream parlor where Nanami makes him eat ice cream with her. Nanami's classmate Isabi spots her at the place and starts throwing questions at Nanami about her father and their sketchy living style. Tomoe becomes fed up and starts to drag Nanami away from him. Isabi tries to follow them, so Tomoe argues with him and even threatens to beat him up. Nanami yells at him to stop fighting with Isabi, and her divine powers make him freeze on the spot. Tomoe argues with her that he only came with her to look for Kotaru, and the shop server steps towards them curiously. It turns out the server was Kotaru himself, who they were looking for all along. Nanami meets up with him later at night and asks him whether he remembers the person he met at Isara camp 10 years ago. Kotaru doesn't remember anything and even hesitates to openly talk to Nanami about anything, since he is a virgin shut-in loser. Nanami tells him that her friend has feelings for him and asks him to talk to her once. After their conversation, she meets up with the spirits again, and Tomoe suddenly appears in front of her with a carriage to take her back to the shrine. On the way home, she asks Tomoe for a favor regarding Himiko. Soon Nanami summons Himiko to her shrine, and with the help of Tomoe's magic, she dresses her up as a normal high school girl who resembles a human. Tomoe warns Himiko that she shouldn't use her spiritual powers, otherwise she will revert back to her spirit form. After all the preparation, Himiko meets up with Kotaru at the park after school timings. She grabs his face and he recalls the moment when a spirit cheered him up 10 years ago at a swamp. She keeps clinging on to him, which makes him uncomfortable, and meanwhile Nanami and her spirits watch everything from a distance. Himiko openly confesses her love to Kotaru, and then noticing the Rubik cube in his hands, she starts questioning him about the cube. He finally opens up to her and begins to chit-chat with her about the cube. After a while, Kotaru leaves to buy some ice cream for her, and some older guys approach Himiko. They start to hit on her, so Nanami decides to help her out. Tomoe advises Nanami that her duty is to only watch everything from a distance. In the meanwhile, Kotaru witnesses Himiko being troubled by the guys, but he hesitates to help her out since he is the ultimate wuss. Nanami writes a white talisman to give him a little nudge, and with the help of Nanami's divine powers, he rushes towards Himiko to help her out with newly found courage. One day, a snake appears at Nanami's school and the students surround it to capture it. Nanami steps in and easily grabs the snake to save it from her classmates. She throws the snake out of the window and tells it to remain safe. As the snake leaves, she notices a mark on her arm, which makes her think that maybe she is allergic to snakes. Later she returns to the shrine and finds Tomoe preparing a meal for her. He notices the mark on her arm and immediately realizes that a snake spirit has bound himself to Nanami. He explains to Nanami that the mark means that the snake will soon come back to her and make her his bride. He starts hatching up a plan to protect her from the white snake. The next day, he tags along Nanami to her school while pretending to be a normal high school boy. He grabs her hand and reminds her to stay by his side all the time. Later Tomoe gets introduced to the whole class as a new transferred student. He takes his seat beside Nanami, and after the class is over, the girls surround Tomoe to fangirl over him. Much to Nanami's shock, he remembers all the girls from the time he visited the school to bring Nanami her lunch. The girls ask him about his relationship with Nanami, and he tells them that Nanami is her mistress. Hearing this, Nanami drags the freak outside and gives him an earful that the other girls can get the wrong idea if he calls her his mistress. She asks him to pretend that he is a wealthy family's kid and that the family has taken Nanami in, due to which they are both so close. Later, Tomoe spends all his time with Nanami, and she feels closer to him than before since they don't spend a lot of time together at the shrine. After school time, she finds Tomoe fast asleep, so she heads to the teacher's room by herself. On the way, she comes across her snake prince named Mizuki, who stops and greets her. After a while, Tomoe wakes up and finds Nanami missing. It turns out that Mizuki is actually a snake spirit who serves a god named Yanamori as her familiar. Nanami wakes up in Yanamori's shrine, and right off the bat, Mizuki declares that they will get married. He reveals that Yanamori has given them her blessing and that they can both stay together at the shrine forever. Nanami refuses to marry him and runs out on her own, even though he warns her that she cannot escape him. She rushes away from the shrine and tries to get back to a familiar place, but after walking for a while, she ends up back at the shrine where Mizuki and the other spirits greet her. She recalls that Tomoe promised to protect her and starts crying on the spot while Mizuki tries consoling her that everything will turn out fine. Later Mizuki shows Nanami around his shrine and she notices a plum tree which is frozen in time. Mizuki reveals that he has frozen the tree in time and then leads her to a room with a joint bed. He leaves her alone there and she keeps remembering Tomoe. In the meanwhile, Tomoe becomes really worried for Nanami since he believes that she is a good-for-nothing wuss who cannot defend herself. The next morning, Nanami learns that Mizuki's shrine doesn't receive any visitors. Mizuki also informs her that he has known Tomoe for a while and taunts Tomoe for losing another god. Nanami senses that something is sus in the shrine and she barges inside Yanomori's room only to discover that there is no god in the shrine. At the same time, Tomoe manages to find a desolate dam where someone had built a shrine a long time ago. Mizuki shares his lore with Nanami that there was a village near the dam where children would often get swept, due to which the villagers built the shrine and Yanomori came into being due to their worshipping. However, the village soon became desolate and Yanomori went into hiding, leaving Mizuki behind alone since he didn't want to abandon his shrine. Nanami sympathizes with him and tries to console him that he should live his life. He takes her sympathy the wrong way and his creepiness levels up to Diddy level as he hugs her. Nanami calls out Tomoe's name and suddenly Tomoe appears at the door. He kicks the door, which sends it flying, and throws wildfire at Mizuki. He then jumps on Nanami next and pulls her into a hug with a breath of relief. Mizuki extinguishes Tomoe's fire and reminds him that he is a divine familiar while Tomoe is a mid-level spirit who turned into a familiar. Tomoe reminds him in return that he has the upper hand since Mizuki has no proper shrine or god to serve. He surrounds the shrine with fire and Mizuki runs out towards his plum tree, which is his last symbolic cornerstone from Yanomori. He plays a victim in front of Tomoe and starts whining that he should leave the tree alone because it's his precious reminder from Yanomori. Tomoe threatens to burn the tree down, but Nanami stops him from bullying Mizuki further. She apologizes to Mizuki for not staying with him longer and promises to pay him another visit whenever he is feeling lonely. Later she heads back with Tomoe and notices that he is acting like a brat. She explains to him that she couldn't leave Mizuki alone since she was thinking about how Tomoe would have felt if she had died suddenly. Tomoe notices that her knee is scratched and he gets a grim reminder that his land god is a frail girl who needs better protection from him. She then takes his hand and together they both head back to their shrine. One day, the god of thunder, Lady Narukami, learns that Nanami has become the new land god of Mike's shrine. She recalls that Mike once refused to give her Tomoe when she requested him and becomes angry that Tomoe is still serving some little girl instead of her. She decides to check whether Nanami is worthy of her title or not. Soon after, Tomoe sees a thunderstorm approaching and realizes that Narukami is heading to his shrine to pay him a visit. Nanami wakes up just then and is about to head out to school, but Tomoe stops her and Nanami eats her lunch, which Tomoe prepared for her, and the spirits tell her that Tomoe especially studies cooking in order to make the best kind of food for her. Just then a blast of thunder hits the school and time freezes around Nanami as Narukami appears in front of her. Narukami introduces herself as the god of thunder and tells Nanami that she will take over the Mike shrine to spare her from all the troubles. Nanami tells her that she isn't troubled by her new identity and that she thinks of the shrine as her home now. Her answer pisses off Narukami and just then Tomoe appears out of nowhere. Narukami taunts him for serving a human god and Tomoe lunges at her to get Nanami away from her. In return, Narukami hits her with a divine weapon, which transforms Tomoe into a child. She then turns towards Nanami next and uses her into his normal self. She then disappears from the school and takes the other shrine spirits with her. Later Nanami and Mini Tomoe wonder what they should do since they are homeless now. Tomoe tells Nanami to live a normal human life and suddenly he collapses on the seat. Nanami discovers that he is burning with a fever and she rushes to the doctor to help him out. She doesn't find the doctor inside and with no other options left, she wonders where she can take Tomoe. Suddenly Kurama appears in the street and she confides in him about her current situation. Kurama takes the both of them to his fancy mansion where Nanami finally puts Tomoe in a bed to let him rest. Kurama explains to her that Tomoe's spiritual powers aren't being properly maintained in his childish body and that the only way to treat him is for him to transform back into his old hot self. He gives a pill to Tomoe to temporarily treat his symptoms. Nanami then stays by Tomoe's side all night to take care of him. Meanwhile, Tomoe has a dream about someone named Yukiji in which Yukiji takes care of him when he was sick as a child. He wakes, so he requests her to make rice cakes just like how Yukiji used to make for him as a child. Nanami immediately rushes to the kitchen and makes rice cakes for Tomoe, since he has never asked her for anything. Later she feeds him the rice cakes and Tomoe and Kurama bicker like old friends. Meanwhile, the Mike shrine reverts to its shabby self since Tomoe used to maintain the shrine through his spiritual powers. Narukami wonders why Tomoe hasn't come back to her after giving up and she sends her spirits to bring Tomoe to her. Back at Kurama's apartment, Nanami wakes up to find herself sprawled between Kurama and Tomoe. She recalls that Kurama and Tomoe between them and ultimately everyone collapsed into the bed exhausted. Kurama suggests her to use Narukami alone and to resume living her normal human life. He thinks that he doesn't want to be a burden on her and just then, Narukami's spirits before them. They share that Narukami is really worried for Tomoe and Nanami reminds them that it is Narukami who is making Tomoe suffer in the first place. She declares that she and Tomoe will figure out something on their own, but Tomoe steps forward and bids her goodbye. He reveals that he is going to Narukami on his own and then disappears with the spirits. Tomoe returns to Narukami's side, who keeps him close. He recalls when he had nowhere else to go many years ago and when Mikage offered him to come to his shrine. Soon Tomoe disappears from the shrine and his disappearance angers Narukami a lot, to become Narukami's familiar. Kurama again decides to help her out and he gives her a feather of one of his wings, which allows her to see the other spirits. Suddenly she sees Mikage's spirits around her, who tell her that they have been crying in her proximity all this time and that Narukami is wreaking havoc on the shrine since she cannot find Tomoe anywhere. Nanami heads back the shrine with the spirits and confronts Narukami, who was about to blast the shrine into cinders. Narukami tells Nanami that she cannot find Tomoe anywhere and Nanami strikes a deal with her to hand back the shrine to her if she can find Tomoe. Narukami agrees to her conditions and for an hour, Nanami tries to find Tomoe but fails. She then sees a glowing butterfly and follows it to a room which contains Mikage's pocket mirror. She finds that Tomoe has hid himself inside the mirror and she welcomes him back to the shrine. Narukami admits her defeat and leaves her alone with Tomoe since she doesn't want to simp over Tomoe any longer. Narukami's spirits give Mikage's mark back to Nanami, which transforms her into a land god. Nanami then transforms Tomoe back into his old self and he kisses her once more, to reseal their contract. After Nanami and Tomoe return to the shrine, Nanami starts to feel weird around Tomoe while he feels normal as usual. His little movements around her make her feel awkward, but he tries to ignore her feelings the best she can. One day, she is heading to school when Tomoe feels her forehead and discovers that she actually has a fever. Nanami starts whining that she cannot skip school otherwise she can be held back, but she collapses in the hallway and Tomoe catches her before she can fall down. The spirits advise her to rest and even suggest Tomoe to transform into Nanami to attend school. The idea seems excellent to Nanami and soon enough, Tomoe heads to school dressed up as Nanami. She takes her seat and her classmates instantly notice that her aura seems different while her plot seems a bit bigger. Kurama arrives at school after days of skipping out as well and gives a souvenir to Nanami, not realizing that it's actually Tomoe. Kurama also learns that Tomoe has taken admission in their school and he decides to become closer to Nanami quickly before Tomoe can attend school. In the next period, Tomoe struggles to read English text and Kurama steps in to help her. He reads the text to the whole class instead in order to impress Nanami, but Tomoe only glares at him for stealing the spotlight away from him. In the next class, Tomoe struggles to sing properly in the choir and once again Kurama steps in to help Nanami out by giving a singing demo instead. All the classmates wet themselves over his singing, but Tomoe only glares at him like he is trash. Tomoe rushes out of the class and Kurama runs after him. Tomoe comments that Kurama must be after Nanami's god identity and Kurama explains that he actually wants Nanami's love rather than her powers. He then grabs her hand and Tomoe punches his face to get away from him. Kurama warns him to stay safe in the school since there is a heavy presence somewhere nearby. Tomoe senses the dark aura and realizes that a spirit world gate has opened somewhere in the school. In the meanwhile, one of Nanami's classmates named Ami gets left behind in the basement's locker room. Suddenly it gets dark in the locker room and a spirit appears behind her. It licks Ami's face, which makes her panic and she runs out in fear. She runs into Tomoe instead and he tells her to go away as he enters the room by himself. Ami runs to her classmates, but thinking about Nanami, she turns back and runs towards the locker room again. Meanwhile, Tomoe confronts a low-level spirit who was sneakily watching all the girls changing. He is about to burn him to a crispy toast when Ami barges inside the room to search for Nanami. The spirit takes advantage of the distraction and licks Tomoe's face, but he finds the taste very bland. He then jumps on Ami next and Kurama saves her by kicking the spirit back into the room. Tomoe tells Kurama to take Ami away and then shuts the door on their face. Kurama distracts Ami by kissing her cheek and sweetly requests her to keep the whole incident a secret. After she is gone, he enters the room and finds Tomoe casually sitting and eating the spirit in the form of a lollipop. Kurama still thinks that Tomoe is actually Nanami, so he advises her to stay careful without Tomoe around to protect her. Tomoe likes his protective nature and gives him the lollipop in return. In the meanwhile, while Tomoe is at the school, Mizuki visits Nanami when he hears that Tomoe won't be at the shrine. He then starts to cook food for her and makes a ruckus since he is also a useless idiot. He comments that Nanami must have used her divine powers to force Tomoe to go back to school, and he proceeds to call Tomoe a wild fox who cannot be tamed by anyone. Nanami defends Tomoe and claims to know him the best, but Mizuki comments that Tomoe has tamed her even though he is supposed to serve her only. She keeps defending Tomoe and Mizuki brings out a special incense burner which will send Nanami back into the past in order to show her the truth about Tomoe. He lights the burner and the scent knocks out Nanami. Soon she finds herself inside the body of an unknown girl, thrown in a forest. She finds an injured kid nearby and rushes to his side to tend to him. The kid warns her not to return to the village and reveals that the spirits have attacked the village and that Lord Akura is looking for her. She then finds an abandoned house nearby to treat the kid's wounds, but after getting there, the kid transforms into a spirit himself and comments that he will devour her instead of Akura. He jumps on her, but just then, he becomes engulfed with foxfire and dies on the spot. Tomoe approaches her from the shadows and steps close to her. He makes crude comments that a young hamlet like her is alone in the woods, which makes her really afraid. He even rips her kimono a little and she steps away from him in disbelief. Just then they hear a voice outside and Tomoe steps outside to talk to him. Nanami finds a hole to escape from and she runs out in the forest while Tomoe talks with his friend Akura. Both spirits discuss how the village only had old hags and Akura asks him whether he has seen a young girl named Yukiji around, but Tomoe hides about her existence from him. Nanami runs through the forest and ends up falling down a pit. She wakes up in the present and Mizuki tells her that she was transferred to the past. Tomoe arrives home from school and kicks out Mizuki on seeing him. He scolds the spirits for letting Mizuki inside and feels Nanami's forehead to reveal that she still has a fever. Nanami starts crying because the current Tomoe was unlike the person that she saw in the past. Soon afterwards, the end of term arrives and Nanami confesses to Tomoe that she sucks at studying. He isn't shocked since she sucks at being a land god as well. While they chit-chat in the class, a horde of girls surround the classroom to have one look at Tomoe. Kurama then arrives at the class with his horde of fangirls and right off the bat he and Tomoe start arguing with one another. Tomoe taunts Kurama that Nanami hates him, and in the midst of their argument Nanami notices Ami peeking at them. She approaches her outside the classroom and Ami confides in her that she wants to thank Kurama for the spirit-busting incident, but he is always surrounded by hormonal girls who are obsessing over him. Nanami finds her really cute, but she doesn't know what she is talking about since it was actually Tomoe who was dressed up as Nanami and was involved in the incident. Ami asks her whether she is a medium and Nanami answers that she isn't someone special. She then promises to arrange a meeting with Kurama where she can talk to him alone. Soon Nanami approaches Kurama and plants a talisman on his back, which makes other girls ignore him. Once the talisman is planted on him, the surrounding girls leave him alone and Nanami asks him for a favor. On her request, he visits a spot and feels irritated that all the girls are ignoring him despite his sick looks. Even Ami arrives and doesn't acknowledge him, so he calls her out to gain her attention. She then thanks him for his help earlier, but he doesn't even recognize her. She starts to run away in embarrassment but falls down in the hall midway, exposing her melon cheeks. Some of their classmates spot her childish strawberry plot armor and make fun of her, so Kurama calls them out and taunts them for mocking a girl. They run away on seeing him and he starts to chit-chat with Ami. Nanami watches everything unfold from another building and feels happy that she reconciled two people, but Tomoe warns her that a relation between a spirit and a human is doomed to fail. She wonders why he is always so negative about such things, and he then forces her to study to pass the upcoming final exams. They both plant themselves on the roof where Nanami studies for her exams. She tells Tomoe that spirits and humans should become friends whenever they can, and he argues with her that he only wants to protect her and not care about anything else. Later some girls approach Nanami in the class and take her outside. One of them, named Yumi, bluntly confesses to her that she likes Tomoe a lot, but she always sees her with Tomoe all the time. Her friend asks her outright whether she is dating Nanami, but Nanami assures them that they aren't together. She then asks Nanami to not go home together with Tomoe and to give her a chance to riz him up. Nanami agrees to help her out, and later she sends Tomoe a note telling him that she is going home alone. After home time, Yumi approaches Tomoe and asks him to walk home with her, but he refuses her advances instantly. Meanwhile, Nanami studies for her exams on the roof and starts to feel regret that she gave some other girl a chance to riz up Tomoe. Just then Tomoe approaches her and scolds her for trying to set him up with another girl. He declares that only Nanami is important to him, and Nanami realizes on the spot that she actually has feelings for him. They both walk home together while Nanami tries to figure out when she fell so hard for him. Soon afterwards, Kurama approaches Tomoe and warns him that he should be too smooth with Nanami because she is at the hormonal age where she can easily start romantically liking him. Tomoe finds his statements absurd and he reminds him that Nanami isn't a normal high school girl but a land god, due to which she cannot be having such petty thoughts. Soon the final exams are over, and after the exams, Ami suggests to Nanami that the both of them along with her friend Kei should go out to celebrate. Kei reveals that she is going on a date with her boyfriend and asks Nanami whether she is dating Tomoe. Nanami explains her situation to her friends, that she and Tomoe are not romantically involved even though they live together, and that she means a lot to him. Kei suggests to her that she should switch things up and go on a date and act cute around him in order to get his attention. Tomoe arrives to fetch her and they both head out. She suggests to Tomoe that they should go to the town for a change and then takes him to the aquarium as a date. She enjoys her time at the aquarium, but Tomoe remains miserable throughout the visit and keeps telling her that they should go back. She drags him everywhere, and at one time she struggles to watch a skit of a sea lion. Tomoe carries her up so that she can see the skit, and the incident makes her really happy. After spending the whole evening at the aquarium, Tomoe thinks that she should be satisfied with their adventure, but Nanami suggests going to a building's rooftop to watch the night view. They go to a nearby rooftop where they can see the whole city, and Tomoe asks her bluntly whether she has fallen for him. He explains that Kurama told him that girls of Nanami's age easily lose their pathetic senses over boys and that Kurama must be joking. Nanami asks him what he will do if she really has feelings for him, and he goes into shock as he realizes that she may really like him. He grabs her suddenly and declares that he will never like a human girl. He then jumps into the air and drags her with him as he jumps from one building to the other one. He wants to bring Nanami into senses, but Nanami yells out that she really likes him a lot. He ends up dropping her accidentally, and as Nanami falls down the air, she cannot believe that she has been rejected so roughly. Tomoe jumps after her and grabs her hand to save her, but she orders him not to touch her. Her divine powers propel him back, and he begs her to let him touch her, and that in exchange he will never touch him again. He then grabs her at the last second and lands on the ground with Nanami in his arms. As Nanami hugs him close, she realizes that her feelings will keep on growing. Nanami remains bummed even when school starts again and her friends join her. They try to cheer her up, and Ami asks her to eat her lunch, but Nanami doesn't feel hungry. Tomoe sees that she is not eating her lunch, and Ami tells him to stop being so hard on Nanami since he just rejected her recently. Tomoe doesn't care about her feelings and tries to force a mushroom into her mouth, but at the last second he stops. He then walks away from her, and Nanami thinks about how Tomoe is avoiding touching her lately. Ami suggests that they should go to the beach in an attempt to cheer up Nanami. Nanami agrees to go with her, but at the time of the visit, Tomoe refuses to let her go. Just then, Mizuki visits the shrine as well and sees Tomoe explain to Nanami that the ocean is full of demons who can attack her. She argues with him about going to the beach, and Mizuki offers to accompany and protect her. Finally, they all visit the beach and Tomoe tags along Mizuki. Kei lends Nanami a swimming suit to wear, and Nanami feels really conscious of herself, so she avoids interacting with Tomoe and instead runs towards the water with her friends. Meanwhile, Mizuki and Tomoe lunge at the beach, and Mizuki taunts Tomoe for tagging along. He comments that he knows the reason why Tomoe cannot swim in the water, but promises to keep the reason a secret from Nanami. Mizuki then calls out to Nanami and asks to join her in the water. Nanami shows the boys a seashell, and then Mizuki tags along with her to the water. Tomoe notices that Mizuki is also touching her shoulder, which pisses him off a lot because he cannot touch her. In the meanwhile, Mizuki lounges at the beach away from the rush, and another god named Otahiko accompanies him. Otahiko tries convincing him to swim in the water, but Mikage reminds him that Tomoe may recognize him if he swims near the other people. Otahiko marvels at the fact that Mikage is still keeping an eye on Tomoe despite staying away from him for 20 years. He wonders whether Tomoe will kill him if they ever meet again, and Mikage tells him that Tomoe will only kick him in the face only. Otahiko then goes to swim in the water, and Mikage becomes motivated to swim as well, so he heads towards the water. Nanami and Ami swim in the water, and Otahiko watches them from a distance. He thinks that things are going too vanilla, so he decides to meddle with Nanami and uses his powers to drown Ami. Immediately, Nanami realizes that Ami has disappeared into the water, and she dives inside to save her. Sometime later, Kei and Nanami rush towards Tomoe and tell them that Ami has disappeared into the water. Nanami begs Tomoe to save Ami, who cannot swim, and starts crying. Tomoe thinks of touching her in order to console her, but he then withdraws his hand at the last second. He promises to save Nanami's friend and heads towards the water. Mizuki reminds him that he cannot enter the water, but Tomoe feels like he has no choice but to listen to Nanami. He then dives into the water and uses his powers to spot Ami easily. Soon he arrives back with Ami in his arms, and Ami joins her friends. Suddenly the weather grows dark behind them, and a demon steps forward from the water. He tells Tomoe that he has finally found him and was waiting for him all these years. He introduces himself as a self-proclaimed MC, the king of many seas Akura, who has been waiting for centuries for Tomoe to come to the water. Nanami notices that all the others around him have been knocked out, and Akura then summons a huge sea monster oyster who thrusts its tentacles at Tomoe and binds him tight. Akura reminds Tomoe that long ago he killed many of his creatures, burned down his kingdom's north gate, and fled with one of his eyes, due to which he has come back for revenge now. With one command, Akura's oyster pulls Tomoe inside himself, and Akura then flees into the water. Nanami rushes after him, but Akura uses his powers to push her away and leaves. Nanami jumps into the water after him and grabs a hold of the oyster, but soon she struggles to breathe. She blames herself for forcing Tomoe inside the water even though he didn't want to go, and starts to lose consciousness, but at the last second, Akura pulls her above the water. She lands on a rock and struggles to breathe properly. After a moment, she begs Akura to release Tomoe, and Akura argues with her that Tomoe is long gone and won't ever come back. Nanami asks her what he needs to let Tomoe go, and Akura reveals that he may spare Tomoe's miserable life if he can get his stolen eye back. Nanami makes him promise that he will spare Tomoe's life if she can find the eye for him. He also promises to wait for 2 more days, and Nanami then rushes back. Meanwhile, Kei and Ami arrive at their inn with Mizuki and feel worried for Tomoe and Nanami, who are still missing. But just then, Nanami arrives at the inn. She drags Mizuki outside and asks him to give her the divine incense burner, which will transport her back to the past. She explains that she needs to find the Dragon King Akura's eye, and Mizuki feels jealous of Tomoe since his god loves him so much. Nanami confides in him that she cannot ask anyone else for help, and Mizuki brings out the incense burner, which he takes with him everywhere. He tells her that he will be sending her whole body to the past now, and that he will also come to act as her guide. The incense sends the both of them to the past, and Nanami finds herself teleported to the past in a snowy beach. An old scrawny-looking woman approaches Nanami and asks her to give her the Demon King's eye, which is residing inside her. Mizuki calls her out and the woman runs away quickly. Mizuki then puts a shawl around her shoulders, and they both witness Tomoe near the beach. He attacks a sea monster and puts it down with his foxfire. Finally, he turns around and comes face to face with Nanami. She sees the Dragon King's eye in his hands, but before she can approach him, he pushes her away and flies off. She tries chasing after him but falls down instead, since running is also too much of a task for a wuss like her. Mizuki puts Nanami on his sea dragon and they both chase after Tomoe. Nanami thinks that Tomoe will give them back the eye if they explain the situation to him, but Mizuki advises her to steal the eye from him. They follow Tomoe into a house where they land after him, and Nanami sneaks near his room to stalk him like a creep. Inside the room, Tomoe hands over the eye to Yukiji and tells her to take it as medicine to cure her illness. He holds her tightly while Nanami watches everything, and Mizuki feels glad that Nanami is feeling envious of someone. Tomoe realizes that Yukiji cannot swallow the eye on her own, so he heads out to bring some spring water. He heads away while Nanami and Mizuki hide themselves from him. Once he is gone, Mizuki convinces Nanami to fetch the eye from Yukiji. Nanami notices that Yukiji is feeling even worse than before, so she rushes to her inside the room and tells her to quickly eat the eye to restore herself. Mizuki snatches the eye from her hand and reminds her that Tomoe will be lost if she feeds the eye to Yukiji. Still, Nanami doesn't want to see anyone suffer before her eyes, and she requests Mizuki to give her back the eye. She then takes the eye from him and feeds it to Yukiji, who starts to feel better instantly. Mizuki and Nanami return to the present, where Nanami feels her body ache due to the time travel. She recalls that the old spirit whom she met in the past told her that there was a Dragon King's eye inside of her body. Mizuki tells her that the spirit was named Isoheim, who wanders around the beach, and Nanami decides to reach out to her to find some kind of clue to save Tomoe. Soon she and Mizuki arrive at a cave near the beach where Isoheim was haggling with some customers. Mizuki makes the customers run away, and Nanami tells Isoheim about their interaction in the past. She asks her whether she can bring out the Dragon King's eye from inside her body, and Isoheim checks out her body like a freak. She reveals that there is a small eye inside Nanami's body, and Nanami asks her what she wants in exchange for taking the eye out of her body. Isoheim demands her to give 30 years of her life, and Mizuki calls her a greedy old hag. Nanami agrees to give her 30 years of life to her despite Mizuki's warnings, and lays down while Mizuki walks away from her in anger. Isoheim touches her body and senses the land god's powers inside her as well, so she takes them out because they are more valuable than Akura's eye. Mizuki steps inside the cave again and comments that he knew Isoheim would screw Nanami over. Even though he isn't bound to Nanami, he feels respect towards her, and out of nowhere, he kisses Nanami on the lips in order to form a contract between the both of them. The contract establishes itself, and Mizuki becomes her familiar, after which he turns towards Isoheim to beat her up. After a moment, Nanami wakes up and finds that Mizuki practically leached off of her lips while she was asleep. Mizuki restrains Isoheim to stop her from running away and lunges at her for another attack, but Nanami orders him to not kill her. Her divine powers stop him from moving further, and Mizuki becomes a first-rate creep as he starts liking the paralysis brought on by the divine powers. Afterwards, Isoheim gives them the Dragon Eye along with tickets for the Dragon King Castle and flees without looking back. Tomoe wakes up from his slumber inside Akura's castle, and after making a ruckus, Akura arrives to meet him. He reminds Akura that he couldn't show his violent side in front of Nanami, due to which he decided to change the venue for their fight. Meanwhile, Nanami and Mizuki head towards the castle in a sea turtle. Nanami recalls Tomoe's behavior towards Yukiji, which makes her feel jealous. Another sea creature gets inside the turtle, and it turns out to be a girl named Kameheim who is going to meet her husband. Kameheim shows Nanami a coat filled with beautiful embroidery that she made for her husband after spending many days on it. Suddenly the turtle moves around roughly and Kameheim's cloth ends up flowing outside the turtle into the water. Mizuki pulls Nanami back to stop her from going after the turtle. Kameheim also stops her and consoles herself that she made good memories when she was making the coat. Nanami feels selfish that she was only thinking about Tomoe's feelings for Yukiji and not about all the good time he spent with her. They finally arrive at Akura's castle where there is a fight going on between Akura and Tomoe. Mizuki disappears midst the fight and some slugs inform Kameheim that Tomoe is fighting with Akura. Nanami runs towards the disruption on hearing this, and meanwhile Tomoe beats up Akura for screwing with him at the beach. Akura tells Tomoe that Nanami came after him and tried to bargain with him in order to get Tomoe back. Tomoe tells him that Nanami is a useless dimwit land god who is incapable of helping him out, and just then, Nanami barges inside the room. Tomoe hides himself from the oyster on seeing her and refuses to come out like a whining child. Nanami tells him that she met the old him in the past and that she doesn't care if he doesn't like her back or if he likes someone else. She then forces him to come outside and hugs him tightly as she comments that he will make him like her back. Kameheim arrives inside the room and turns out that she is actually Akura's wife. After Akura had lost his eye, she had promised Kameheim that he won't get another scar on his face and will leave Tomoe alone. She starts berating Akura on hearing about his feud with Tomoe, and Mizuki arrives at the castle with Kameheim's embroidered coat. He offers to give it to Akura in exchange for Tomoe's freedom, but Akura calls the coat a useless trashy piece. He then learns that Kameheim made the coat for him, which makes him fear for his life, and he immediately accepts the gift in exchange for Tomoe. Finally Tomoe reunites with Nanami and Mizuki and learns that Mizuki has become Nanami's familiar just like him, which shocks him to no end. Centuries ago, Tomoe was just a wandering spirit who wandered around in an injured state after losing Yukiji. He came across Mikage, who noticed his grave state and asked him why he was covered with blood. Tomoe informed him that it wasn't his blood, and Mikage then invited him to come to his shrine. When they reached his shrine, Mikage made him strip his clothes only to discover that Tomoe's body was bound with an enchantment that was put on by a former god. Mikage warned Tomoe that such former gods are vicious creatures, and he also realized that Tomoe had been wandering around all this time in a wrecked state. Tomoe confessed to him that he loved a woman named Yukiji and promised to live all his life with her, but she passed away, due to which he needs to die as well. He feels glum that he cannot die like a human and asks Mikage to watch over him on his deathbed. Mikage assured him that he won't let him die yet and then made him sleep with the help of his powers. Tomoe wakes up from his dream and confuses Mizuki for Mikage. When he snaps back to reality, he kicks Mizuki away and scolds him for not working at the shrine. Mizuki then gets to work and whines about Tomoe's behavior, so the other spirits tell him that Tomoe has tamed down a lot since the first time he came to the shrine. In the past, when Tomoe came to Mikage's shrine, Mikage asked him to stay at the shrine with him, but Tomoe found everything too mid for his narcissistic tastes. Mikage then made the contract with him, which made him his familiar, and Tomoe started to live at the shrine with him. One time, Tomoe approached a violent spirit on Mikage's request who was attacking a human girl. The spirit would attack humans when they would cross a bridge, and a number of worshippers would come to the shrine to pray for protection, due to which Mikage sent Tomoe to deal with it. Tomoe was about to put down the spirit when the girl touched him and he started scolding her, due to which the spirit ran away. Afterwards, Mikage scolded him a lot and gave him an earful for not treating humans with kindness. Soon the shrine received the news that Otahiko was coming to pay a visit, and the other spirits discussed whether they should hide Tomoe away since he didn't know how to act with manners. Tomoe overheard everything and decided to face Otahiko regardless of the others' opinions about him. Meanwhile, Mikage felt worried for Tomoe's behavior, and when one of the spirits asked him why he made Tomoe his familiar, he told the spirit that he didn't want to let Tomoe die all alone like a loser. Later, Tomoe was at the bridge when the girl from before approached him. She wanted to thank him for his help, but when she came near him, he flicked her hand away. Mikage appeared between them and took care of the situation. When the girl was gone, he called Tomoe a weak person for raising his hand on a human and ordered him to learn some kindness. The next day, Otahiko came to the shrine to pay a visit and found Mikage in a gloomy mood because of his earlier argument with Tomoe. Tomoe stayed inside the whole day thinking about Mikage's advice and didn't come out to meet Otahiko. After Otahiko went away, the spirits approached Tomoe and asked him to pour a drink to Mikage since it's a familiar's duty. Tomoe joined Mikage on a veranda and drank with him while the other spirits joined them. However, 20 years ago, Mikage told Tomoe that he is going to town and that he should take care of the shrine till his return. He went away and never returned while Tomoe kept waiting for him. In the present, Mizuki learns the whole story from the other spirits and Tomoe finds him slacking off and drinking. He smacks his head and then rushes off to Nanami's room to wake her up like a worried mom. One day afterwards, Tomoe and Kurama arrive at school and are met with hordes of desperate girls who want to clap them. Nanami's friend Kei invites Nanami and Kei to a mixer because she wants a boyfriend soon. She forces Nanami to accept her invitation even though Nanami only likes Tomoe. After home time, Tomoe asks Nanami about the mixer but she refuses to talk to him about it and instead heads towards home. Kurama overhears their conversation and tells Tomoe that Nanami is hiding her feelings from him but he only attacks Kurama to shut him up. He recalls how Mikage left him alone and hid his feelings from him as well. On the weekend, the girls attend the mixer and meet with a bunch of skanky-looking desperate dudes with nothing better to do. At the same time, Tomoe, Mizuki and Kurama stalk Nanami by staying at the neighboring room. Mizuki reports to Tomoe about what's going on in Nanami's room and Tomoe wonders what a mixer is. Kurama tells him about mixers, which makes Tomoe wonder why Nanami would want to go to such a place. On the other side, Kei tells the boys that Nanami is back in the market after getting her heart broken. The girls discover a snake inside the room and Nanami rushes outside with the snake. She asks Mizuki what he is doing at the mixer and Tomoe steps forward to grab Mizuki in his snake form. He tells Nanami that he came to the mixer because he was worried for her but he is leaving now. He walks out, making Nanami feel upset because she thinks that he doesn't even care about her interactions. One of the mixer boys named Kohirui finds her in the hallway and brings her outside to get some cool air. She rants to him about her heartbreak but he gets close to her and starts to flirt with her. Tomoe appears behind them and kicks his bum away from Nanami. Kohirui runs away while Tomoe grabs Nanami's hand and declares that they are going back to the shrine. He drags her along with him and she asks him out of nowhere whether he is feeling irritated after seeing her interaction with another guy. The thought makes her really happy and she tells him not to give her an answer but he openly tells her that he was feeling very irritated. He looks unsure of his own feelings and before things can escalate between the two virgins, Mizuki appears between them. Tomoe starts to argue with him and the moment loses its spark. One day, Mizuki brews his finest alcohol and drinks it with the shrine spirits. He whines to the others that Nanami won't take him to school while Tomoe spends his time around Nanami. The other spirits console him that he isn't accustomed to human society yet due to which Nanami doesn't take him to school. They show him Kurama's show on the television which makes Mizuki wonder why so many girls are losing their crap shrieking over Kurama. The spirits advise him that he needs to blend in with humans more to get close to Nanami and Mizuki decides to head to Tokyo by himself to train himself. He strolls through Tokyo with one of the spirits and cannot believe how much Tokyo has transformed since the last time he saw it centuries ago. Just when he is getting used to it, a lady approaches him and drags him to an office where two women try to force down a sale on him. Mizuki barely manages to flee for his life after buying the material by using up all of the shrine's money. Afterwards, he asks some guys about the direction to get to Kurama's house and the guys roughly talk back to him. He summons his sea snake which makes them run away and the surrounding people notice the snake on his body. A policeman chases after him and once again Mizuki runs for his life. Sometime later, a taxi driver drops him off at Kurama's home but Mizuki doesn't have any money to pay him. He is whining with his sorry but when Kurama spots him and lends him some money, Mizuki tells him that he came to meet him and just then, Kurama's manager spots the both of them. He drags Mizuki to a drama wrap-up party held for Kurama where Mizuki is forced to interact with everyone. Mizuki finds the food very bland and asks Kurama how he can handle the city life since the city is covered with dark energy. Kurama taunts him that he should go back to the shrine and then heads off to network with the guests. A man approaches Mizuki with a drink and Mizuki drinks a glass with him. Meanwhile an old actress approaches Kurama and gushes over his good looks. Her assistant brings her a drink but the actress sends her away after scolding her. The assistant spots Mizuki passed out on the floor after drinking too much so she brings him outside for some fresh air. Mizuki wakes up after a while and thanks the assistant for accompanying him. He thinks that he may not be cut for the human world after all and the assistant tells him how she has come from the countryside to become an actress. She shares her worries with him that she doesn't fit in with the others and Mizuki thinks that she resembles him so he advises her to give up and go back to her village. The assistant whines to him that she will work hard to achieve her dreams and her positive attitude rubs off on Mizuki as well. He feels motivated to keep trying to blend in with the humans and then summons his sea snake. He gives a jar of alcohol that he made to the girl and then flies off with his snake, feeling a growing respect towards humans. The next day, Nanami gets ready early in the morning, so that she can go to the amusement park with Tomoe. After she is ready, she finds him sleeping in his room and throws a tantrum over his refusal to not go. She then throws things around his room and comes across a hairpin. He refuses to tell her who the hairpin belongs to so Nanami keeps pestering him questions about the hairpin. Feeling frustrated, he agrees to go with her to the park since he wants to avoid talking about the hairpin. Soon they arrive at the amusement park and Nanami wonders why he is being so secretive about the hairpin and whether it belonged to Yukiji. She decides to stop thinking about it, and just then, some girls approach Tomoe for a picture. He notices that one girl is wearing a crooked hat and places the hat correctly on her head, which makes the girl swoon over him like a desperate loser. Nanami drags Tomoe away from the girls and scolds him for touching human girls so casually. He reminds her that he has little interest in human girls, and she accidentally reminds him that he used to love a human girl once, even if he doesn't find humans interesting anymore. Tomoe notices the roller coaster ride, which piques his interest, and he drags Nanami with him to ride on it even though she doesn't like such rides. The ride begins with Nanami screaming like a banshee, and in the middle of it, she notices Tomoe laughing out loud, which makes her really happy. After the torture ride, Tomoe notices that Nanami's hair looked disheveled and he fixes her hair up by making a bun out of them. He uses a pin and comments that her hair looks perfect, which makes her really happy. She then runs off to buy some snacks, and on the way back, she notices that he is casually touching another woman's hair, which makes her upset once again. Later he explains himself that he was just removing litter from the girl, but Nanami doesn't believe him and once again reminds him that he used to like a human girl a long time ago. He denies ever liking another human girl, and she throws her snacks at him as she yells at him to not lie to her. She storms off, upset, and thinks about all the excuses he makes to not get close to her. After some time, the night sets in and she takes the Ferris wheel ride by herself without Tomoe. Her hair comes loose and she notices that the hairpin which Tomoe used on her hair was the same one she was pestering him about all day. Tomoe just then lands on her cabin and barges inside. He sits inside with her to accompany her on her favorite ride, and Nanami asks him about the hairpin. He reveals that he bought the hairpin for her from the other world but didn't give it to her because she doesn't wear her hair up. His thoughtfulness makes her really happy, and they both enjoy the ride together, ending the day on a good note. One day, Nanami heads out for some shopping and spots some kids near the shrine. They become scared of seeing her and run away after calling her a ghost. She soon arrives at the grocery mart, where she overheard some ladies gossiping that the Mikage shrine is really run down and old. She confronts the ladies and tells them that the shrine isn't run down or old, but the ladies walk away on being confronted. Nanami heads back to the shrine and feels bad that the neighboring people are spreading rumors about her shrine even though Tomoe works hard to maintain it. She decides to hold a ritual festival in order to get more audience, but Tomoe doesn't like the idea and walks away after hearing it. Nanami remains stubborn and drags the other spirits to the back store where Mikage has kept some stuff for so many years. They come across a bunch of stuff cooped up inside, and Nanami brings out an old palanquin which is used in such festivals. The others shy away from the palanquin, but Nanami sees an opportunity and starts to clean and wash it. The palanquin starts to break apart due to its old age, which makes Nanami panic in return. Tomoe watches everything from a distance and Mizuki taunts him for not helping out Nanami. Soon enough, Nanami prepares the sacred palanquin and shows it to Tomoe, but the palanquin breaks apart when she touches it. Tomoe tells her that only gods can ride the palanquin and tells her to give up on it. She doesn't listen to him and heads back to the store to find something else to use. While she is rummaging to find something, she ends up falling down the stairs and Tomoe catches her midair. He consoles her that she shouldn't feel responsible for the lack of worshippers in the shrine, and she argues with him that she doesn't want Tomoe's efforts to go to waste. He takes her outside and explains to her that her energy makes the shrine's air clean, and reminds her that the shrine used to be in a desolate condition when she first arrived. Despite his consolation, she still decides to hold the festival and makes initial preparations. She sets a date and hands out flyers in the town to spread the news. Afterwards, she asks all the spirits about ideas for the festival, and Mizuki suggests giving away loads of alcohol to people, which makes Tomoe throw taunts at him. Up next, Tomoe suggests that they should tie up some spirits and use them as displays to get people's attention. Suddenly Kurama appears and suggests holding a ritual dance or making people draw their fortunes. Nanami likes his ideas a lot, and Tomoe discovers that Kurama was actually called by Nanami herself, which makes her feel irritated. He reveals that the shrine used to hold ritual dances and shows Nanami a dress made for such a dance. Nanami puts on the dress with Tomoe's help and he compliments her looks. She becomes motivated to learn the dance and gets Tomoe's approval as well. In the meanwhile, a SUS-looking box in the storage room releases a dark cloud of evil. Tomoe begins to help out Nanami with her dance practice, but she struggles to dance properly due to lack of music and because she feels anxious around Tomoe. He scolds her throughout the dance, and at the same time, Mizuki practices some flute music but sucks at it. The next morning, Tomoe storms inside Nanami's room and drags her to the practice room. He pounds the training in her bones and doesn't let her relax even for a minute. She keeps messing up and then gets a few minutes break. Tomoe approaches her and shows her a trick to make herself feel calm. She follows his instructions and then informs him that she used to do the same trick as a child, which breaks the spell, and he yells at her to get back to training again. Hiko watches everything from outside and feels dissatisfied that Mikage chose such a mid-looking dimwit for a land god. He doesn't find Nanami compatible for the job and wonders why Mikage even chose Nanami. Suddenly Mikage appears beside him and comments that he has complete faith in Nanami. He then turns into a butterfly and flies off, leaving behind Hiko, who decides to test out Nanami's powers. Nanami continues to practice the whole day and the next morning, gets up early to do the same. She tries performing the steps on her own but falls down repeatedly like a klutz. Hiko appears in front of her and uses wind to throw her into the air. When Nanami asks who he is, Hiko tells her that lower status people should introduce themselves first. He then disappears and teleports himself outside the shrine, where he releases dark miasma into the air which pollutes the air around the shrine. Nanami rushes outside and sees the dark miasma surrounding the shrine. She recalls Tomoe's words that the land god's presence makes the air clean by itself, and she starts panicking. She tells herself to calm down and then rushes inside to get her talismans. Once equipped, she starts throwing talismans at the dark energy to cleanse it and to purge, but the dark miasma burns down all her talismans. She doesn't give up and keeps throwing talismans, but nothing working on the dark energy. Mizuki and Tomoe wonder why the shrine is suddenly surrounded, and Tomoe rushes to Nanami's find, only to find her exhausted and defeated. He tells Mizuki to take care of the dark energy and takes Nanami inside, where he puts her to the bed. He tells her to rest and that they do not need her, before rushing out. Outside, Mizuki tries his best to subdue the dark miasma with the help of his alcohol, but the dark miasma appears after a moment. He and Mizuki begin arguing about the ongoing situation while Nanami has an existential crisis inside. She thinks that she is not worthy of being a land god and that Tomoe is always saving her, but she is always useless around her. She decides that the shrine doesn't need her anymore and immediately packs her stuff. After a moment, she runs out of the shrine with her bags, and sensing something ominous, Tomoe runs inside to check up on her. He finds her gone and instantly recalls how Mikage left him many years ago and never came back. Tomoe rushes outside and orders his foxfire to find Nanami. He then runs outside as well, and Mizuki runs after him to find swarmed with girls inside, so he shuts the door in his face. He then runs to the roof and Kurama follows him up there, but Tomoe only and Mizuki discuss whether Nanami has used some kind of talisman to hide herself. He entrusted his own to her when she had nowhere to go. She remembers all the moments starting from when she met Tomoe to when she told Tomoe to never abandon, rushes towards the shrine to fight the dark miasma that he had released to the way. The miasma spreads throughout the shrine and the spirits realize that the miasma belongs to a spider spirit. Recall that Mikage had barely subdued the spider spirit, and due to a seal must have broken somehow, causing the same miasma to appear once again. The spider spirit miasma lunges out at the spirits and grabs a hold of one of them and at the spirit, which makes it momentarily withdraw. The spirits warn Nanami that she shouldn't touch them because the energy can taint her as well, but she ignores their whining and hugs the spirits close to her. They warn her that the energy can spread into the town and she vows to protect her citizens as the land god. Tomoe and Mizuki arrive back at the shrine and discover that the miasma has started to take the physical form of a spider yokai. Nanami steps forward in her ritual dance clothes to face the spider yokai, and the spirits hand her the bells that he is completely fine and calm. She then starts to do the Kagura ritual dance just like how Tomoe had taught her. With each step, the spider yokai steps away from her and her steps don't falter. Mikage also joins Hiko in the air and they both watch her dance from a distance. However, her usefulness comes to an end as Nanami stumbles after a step and her bells roll away from her, ending his 2 seconds of fame. Towards Nanami, which merge in Kagura dance perfectly, and with each step, and Nanami's spirits rush to her side. She then falls unconscious on Tomoe's lap in exhaustion. Later, the shrine festival takes place in all its glamour and the attend from the roof. After the festival is over, Nanami sits with all her spirits and hopes that the shrine gets more worshippers after the successful festival. Mizuki compliments her dance and then heads inside to bring alcohol. The other spirits follow after him, leaving behind Nanami along with Tomoe. She asks Tomoe his opinion on her dance and he contract. He comments that he wants to reform the contract with his heart now, which shocks her a lot, and then kisses her on the lips. Thanks for watching till the end. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more anime recaps.